Now we're going to have Christian Mergner and Austin Ammarell. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. They're going to tell us all about Zero motorcycles. And first, we're going to have a very exciting video by Christian Mergner and Funked Productions. Enjoy.
We're here today with Austin and his Zero S, and he's got something exciting to show us today.
So, like Christian said, this is my 2018 Zero motorcycles. It's the S model. They have a few different kinds, and this one has the 13 kilowatt hour battery. And I bought it because I was 18 at the time. I'm 21 now. I was 18, living at home with my parents, going to community college, and I really just wanted a vehicle, and that was fun. I wasn't going to commit to the, some would say, irresponsible financial decision of buying, a nice new car like a lot of people, that age do when they get a little bit of money and start working. And, I wanted a motorcycle, but I knew with the amount that I drove, which I have 56,000 miles on this bike right now, and I've only had it for 2.5 to 3 years. So with the amount that I ride and drive, a regular motorcycle wasn't going to do the job. Those require a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep, and whenever they get to this amount of mileage, 50,000 or up, a lot of things start breaking. And I didn't want to get into all that. So I also didn't want to get into buying an expensive electric car. So I stumbled upon Zero motorcycles, and they fit the bill perfectly. So, I figured out the options I wanted, and I just got the most basic one that had the biggest battery possible that got me from point A to point B, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I commuted about 100 miles a day, give or take some, to 3 different community college campuses, and then to work about 20 miles away from home and then back home. So I would do that 5 to 6 days a week, and it served me really well. I don't have to maintain it nearly at all. And I'll show you a little bit of the dashboard, the boot up sequence. So I've got 52% left, and I rode all day yesterday doing, running around the city. I have 52% left. It's a little small, but here in the top box here, I have my range. 81 miles left is the estimation at 52%. And I have gone 58 miles. So I'm probably not going to get quite 81 miles, but I will get at least 60 to 65 more miles out of this battery at 52%. And fully charged, it estimates about 130 miles. Realistically, I get about 110 to 120. Mixed riding, 65 to 70 on the interstate, plus, downtown to get home. And we are in Columbia, South Carolina, West Columbia to be exact. So I do about, 60 miles a day back and forth to work on the interstate. And then, here and there, fun rides on the weekends or, downtown, around town with Chris's bike. So these bikes are pretty unique because, for one, they're one of the few American-made motorcycles in the world, next to Harley Davidson and Indian, which are some of the biggest, 2 of the biggest motorcycle manufacturers in the world. And then there's Zero, and that's really about it for, somewhat major motorcycle brands. So Chris is giving a little view of the bike from different angles. So you can tell I've got a little bit of homemade qualities about the bike. And, all these ugly connectors here serve a really good purpose, because if you come to the other side, I've got another unique thing about these bikes is that you can, they're really modular. You can upgrade them and modify the charging system. So I've got 2 J plugs here. And a lot of you electric car drivers might hate me for this, but I can go to a charging station and use 2 J plugs at the same time. That's a J1772 inlet. And that is essentially my supercharging, because my 13 kilowatt hour battery could ideally charge at 13 kilowatts if I had 4 charging units on this bike, but I only have 3 because that's what fits in that metal pan underneath. Now, I plug these in, flip these switches to enable them, and then the charging is initiated, and it takes about 30 minutes to get to 60% if I'm close to 0. So I stop for 30 minutes, get up to 60 to 70%, depending on what I start with, and I'm on my way again. So I can go to the mountains. We like to go to the mountains in Tennessee a lot, and he throws his bike on the truck and tows it up there. But a lot of times I'll just ride, and it'll take me only about 2 more hours than it would driving on the interstate in a gas car. And I can enjoy a nice ride on the back roads and have a lot of fun doing it, and then go up there and have fun all day and plug in maybe twice for half an hour each. And I can have all day of riding with minimal effort. And it's really cool because it doesn't cost me any money. DC charging is cheap. Well, DC charging costs money, but level 2 charging is usually free because it's to attract customers to businesses. And I can go spend money at these businesses if I choose, and charge on their level 2 charging, which is the cable you see down there. That's the connector for level 2 charging. So that is about it for upgrades I've done to the bike, utility wise. But I'd like to talk about a couple things that, about the lifestyle of owning the bike is, like I said, I ride 60 miles a day to work and back, and plus my fun riding, and I don't have to maintain the bike at all. I don't have to do any oil changes. There is no oil to change. All I have to do is replace brake pads, brake fluid, tires, and the belt drive that turns the rear wheel from the motor. And I only have to do that every 30,000 miles. So it's really nearly a maintenance-free motorcycle, and it's pretty much the only motorcycle in the world that you can put 60,000 miles on and barely have to touch to do maintenance on it. And another big problem with motorcycles is that they have no storage. So aside from this big box that I have on the back, which probably wouldn't be a lot of people's first choice, is I have this, roughly 1.5 gallon sized compartment here that I can put a full-size water bottle. I have a 3D printed cup holders, so I have 3 cup holders in there, and I can put anything I want in there that I don't want to carry around in a backpack. So it's really, in my opinion, the best everyday motorcycle to have, and it's pretty unique to be able to have an electric vehicle that you really don't have to maintain or replace, wear items on. Tires are pretty cheap. It doesn't have a lot of intricate components. It's just a motorcycle, and it's just got wheels and a battery and a frame. That's about it. So there's not much to keep up on it, and it only cost me, $200 a month to finance. So it was really the perfect blend of economy and fun and utility that did everything I needed it to do and more. So that's a little bit about me and why I bought the bike and how it served me over almost 3 years of owning it. So now, if Chris is ready, we'll transfer into his bike and he can talk a little bit about why he bought his.
All right, well, this is Chris Mergner, and this is my bike. It's a 2018 Zero FXS, and the S stands for Supermoto. What I love about this bike is that it has the least range, the least weight, the least cost, with the most torque. This bike only weighs 249 pounds. It goes 0 to 60 in a rated 4.1 seconds. And it has 78 pound-feet of torque to the rear wheel, all electric. For the first 30 days, I rode just eco mode just to get used to the throttle. And then after 30 days, I got into the sport mode, which is all the torque right from the twist of the throttle. The battery is a short cell. It's only a 3.6 kilowatt hour battery. And the battery is located right here. It's about nominally, say, an 8-inch by 8-inch by 8-inch cube. It has a battery management system built into it. It will not allow the bike to charge over 124 degrees if the battery is that hot, and it's a safety precaution. I can put another battery right here, and this saves me about $2,800 and about 43 pounds of body weight. So that gives me an advantage on the street as far as the acceleration and the weight distribution. I also purchased this really nice 15-liter tank bag, which I think complements the bike. And it gives me some versatility to where I would actually, put some contents instead of on my back. I bought this bike for commuting. I wanted to get actually a car, a sports car, to give myself a sense of enthusiasm in the mornings and the evenings while I went to work. But I found that the advantage of this vehicle was it was very exhilarating. When I test drove it in 2018 in September, I've put over 7,000 miles on this bike in just a short period of time. And I have another bike I bought a year later, which I put about 5,000 miles on, which I love. But this bike by far is the most exciting bike I've ever ridden. It's light, it's nimble, I can stop on a dime. The bike has standard equipment, steel braided lines for the braking. And that makes it, the braking for the ABS, extremely extremely effective. And so instead of having rubberized brake lines, which are a little cushy, this gives you a really sharp feel on the brakes. The bike also has many other advantages. The suspension on the front is fully adjustable. It has a Showa suspension. It has these really cool headlights. It has a motor that is solid state, 78 pound-feet of torque to this sprocket, to this rear flywheel, which produces a solid 78 pound-feet of torque when one accelerates. It has a tubular handlebars, which I love because for me, I like to sit up high and see. It's got really solid pegs. As you can see, the pegs are really solid. You can wear loafers, boots, shoes, dress shoes, anything, and you have a solid center line of the bike, which gives you a really solid feel when you're on this bike. So for me, I just must have to say that this is one of my favorite bikes that I own, and I'm really proud to have it. It's American made. It's been 14 years in production at Zero. They've got 4 model classes: the Zero FX, the FXS, the S, the DS, the SR, the DSR, and now the newer models, which are price points much above this bike. The entry level on my bike was about $8,500, and out the door. And we'll open it up for Q&A.
Hey, Chris, got a couple questions for you. You mentioned the low weight and the high torque. Are there any other safety features such as wheelie control, traction control, anything like that on these motorcycles?
Yes, we have some modern technology on a lot of these electric bikes with Bosch traction control on the bigger bikes. This bike has ABS. It has a good weight distribution. So on my bike, it won't do a wheelie because of its size, weight, and weight distribution. There are other bikes that have spoke wheels up front, which are lighter, and depending on the battery size and weight, they can do some wheelies if you're into that sort of thing. I'm not. Austin has something to say about that. Someone down here.
The bikes, these 2 bikes don't have any traction control, and they quite frankly don't need it. And it is a lot of torque, but with the way the electric motor is designed and performs with the direct drive, it doesn't have any transmission, so you can't downshift like in a manual sport bike to get more torque. That torque has to take you from 0 all the way to top speed, which is right at 100 miles an hour for this bike. But for Christian's bike, it's roughly 92 miles an hour. So they don't really pop a wheelie, as if they don't really break traction. They don't, lift the front tire up with all that torque. It's really smooth, and it's honestly one of the most safe bikes to ride for a new rider, as I was when I bought the bike. But the bigger, more powerful bikes, they have all the safety features like traction control and wheelie control, and they're pretty high tech. So they keep you safe on these bikes.
Okay, we're about to run out of time here, and I see we have another question here from John, because we're just to have a very brief answer. What are the weights of these bikes?
So this bike weighs 407 pounds, and I believe Christian's bike weighs 249.
Correct.
And then the other question is, do these vehicles qualify for tax credits like our cars do?
Yes, they do. So it's a 10% of the MSRP. So if you have enough tax liability, you can buy this bike, which costs $14,000 MSRP. My bike does. And you can get $1,400 tax credit for buying it. So they do qualify. And so it makes it a pretty comparable deal to a equally performing gas sport bike.
Great. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate your coming on so much. It was very interesting. I was really looking forward to this because I didn't know anything about Zero motorcycles, and I know a lot about my car, but I didn't know. And I love the video. I love the sunsets and all of those things. So, but thank you so much for coming on, and also for Funk Productions for doing the video for us. And I hope you guys can stick around for the rest of everything.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you so much. And we hope that we'll have a live event next year.